Welcome everyone to my new Let's Play for my YouTube channel. You guys might know me for doing a number of FF12 Arena live streams as of late, as well as other LP I did before, including Pokemon Fire Red and Mega Man X. But this time around, I'm going to be playing a mod for this channel here. This is a Final Fantasy 12 mod, and not just any Final Fantasy 12 mod. This is a mod you can play on your computer. In other words, I'm playing a mod for the Steam version of Final Fantasy 12 The Zodiac Age. This mod is called Struggle for Freedom, and it was created and it was done by Eternal, or you may know on the FF Haptics website, Eternal248, so give him a shout out. I'll also post the link in the description to where you can check out his mod if you're interested. There are a number of changes to this mod. I'll go over them one at a time as we go along. I know one of which the classes are changed, and the way you get items are also redone as well. I heard that I guess some of which are made to be easier to get than before. That's about all I know so far, so I'm going into this one pretty much blind. I have played the PS2 version of Final Fantasy 12, and I did not too long ago beat the PS4 version. I'll still have to figure out how I can LP PS4 games in the future. Want to get everything all set up. Now, you'll notice in a little bit there will be like a slight pause in the gameplay while recording. That's because when that happens, it's coming up in a second. Yeah, right there. When that happened, for some reason, the audio started to, not the audio, but like the voice acting got desynced with the audio and the lip movement of the cinematic cutscene. So it took me a little bit to edit that out and see how much I can restore it. I don't think I've done like a perfect job at it, but I think I was close enough. Alright, so after Rossler and Lady Ash get married, now we'll be in the middle of a war between Dalmasca and Arcadia. Shit's about to go down here, guys.
My father? I know not. I am sorry.
If Nabodis has indeed fallen, it is only a matter of time before they reach the borders of Dalmasca. There is nothing to halt their advance.
Secure Nalbina with all haste.
I will go.
And I will go inside.
That's all nice. The other thing too is that my history with this game, it goes back to when it first came out in December 2006. I'm going back to the PS2 version. And I was pretty excited about it because, you know, I was a Final Fantasy fan. I've been a Final Fantasy fan for at least 25 years now. well, actually at that point, I got the game in 2006. And I was a Final Fantasy fan for at least 13 years at this point.
Stand watch over your life.
And I remember being pretty excited because I get to play a brand new Final Fantasy game, and then when I saw for what it was, after playing it a while, I kind of tuned myself out of it because the license board grinding, where everyone is just basically the same, kind of bore me a bit, admittedly. But after a few years, I was willing to give the game another chance, but I wanted to play if I were to play the international version, the Japanese version. I think it was the Zodiac Age. We didn't get it until finally, I think it was 1 year ago actually. Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age came out. and I played the living crap out of it ever since. So I got to enjoy the rebalanced game structure. I got to enjoy the fact that you can actually choose jobs, and that actually ultimately affects how you're gonna be fighting, instead of everyone being samey, you know? So my views on the game as a whole definitely improved because of the PS4 version. That's the one I do prefer. Because of well, the other thing that I'll get into in a bit, what also bogged me down about the original PlayStation 2 that I'm glad the PS4 version fixed. I'm actually gonna take a quick look at some of the changes that was made to the mod here. Now there are two different license boards I'll show off in a little bit. Those two license boards are Struggle and Freedom. Let's see. Okay, I'm just reading off, based off the important changes on licenses. I'll get to that in a minute. And I'm just reading it off from what it says here. It says licenses are one of the biggest changes made to Struggle for Freedom. In Vanilla 12 and then Zodiac Age, each character would be customized to a wide extent, allowing for wildly different parties. SFF changes things up a bit by giving each character a set role based on their canon jobs, as seen in 12. Supplementary material such as Reverend Wings and Tactics Advanced 2. This has the benefit of there being a balanced party accessible to players at all times, while making each character equally fun and interesting. That's just basically the gist of what's been changed so far. Of course, I know quickenings got changed, but I'll get to that in a little while. When is more appropriate. I just want to go over one of the changes that was brought up already.
Blessings of the Great Father descend and guide your bodies return to the earth. Great Father, guide your spirits return to the Mother of all. There you shall find peace. Vaan.
So yeah, that must be awful for Princess Ash to marry her husband only to find out he gets killed on the battlefield that very same night.
The death of Lord Rasla Heos Nabradia was but one of many tragedies to befall the kingdom of Dalmasca. The air of hope that had surrounded Her Royal Highness Princess Ash's wedding was now quite lost. Dalmasca had been set adrift at the mercy of history's restless tides. At this time, two great empires struggled for dominion over Ivalice. Arcadia in the east, Rosaria the west. The invasion of the kingdom of Nabradia was Arcadia's first step in its westward march. With Lord Rasla's beloved homeland consumed by the hellfires of war, it seemed clear that Arcadia would soon mete out a like fate to Dalmasca. The fall of the fortress at Nalbina told the destruction of the greater part of Dalmasca's forces. A counterattack was mounted by the order of the Knights of Dalmasca, ever brave and faithful. But against the martial might of the Arcadian armies, they stood little chance of victory. Indeed, their defeat was to be absolute. Soon thereafter, Arcadia came forward, offering terms of peace, or, as one might rather put it, terms of Dalmasca's surrender. Lord Ramanas, King of Dalmasca, and my dear friend, have no choice but to accept these terms. It was, thus, only with reluctance that he set out for Nalbina Fortress, now under Arcadian occupation, to affix his seal to the Emperor's Treaty of Peace. The king had scarce departed his royal city of Rabanasta when the remnants of the Order made their return, and not a moment too soon, for a terrible revelation awaited them. The treaty would be signed with steel and writ in royal blood.
You there? Can you hear me?
And now we enter the battlefields on Dalmasca.
You're slowing us down.
Do not say that. Not all of us are here for love of battle. He fights to defend his homeland. Your name?
Rex, sir. My name's Rex.
Good. Rex. You bore a few cuts, but you are still whole. Well, can you stand?
Yeah, you'll see right there that after the cinematic cutscene is done, the in-game cutscene fixes itself in terms of audio syncing as well as vocal syncing, which I find to be a bit weird, but hey, if it gives me less time to edit, the better. And the reason why I wasn't talking too much during the CGI cutscenes, I'd rather hear you guys hear the story.
He's 2 years younger than I.
Um,
Rabanastor.
So young.
But yeah, one of the more notable changes too is that the enemies actually are a bit tougher now.
I want to fight.
So you're not going to be able to just
For my parents.
dolly around as much as you would normally like. You'll see what I mean in a bit.
Before they act, or all our efforts will be in vain. I'm aware of the situation. We found them! Over there! Bossel, go ahead. I will handle this rabble. Godspeed.
And his boss owned them like a fucking boss.
Steady, Rex. Keep your wits about you and you'll make it. We move!
Alright, so basically now, we get into this little tutorial section to where the game teaches you basically how to play. So, and in case you can't tell by the control scheme, I'm actually playing with the Logitech controller. And it works pretty well for me. I'll just give it a nice little feel here. Tilting the right analog stick. I know one of the changes they've made, at least what I've noticed so far, is they swapped out Rex's Black Magic spell from Thunder to Blizzard, which you will see in a minute. Which I find to be a bit of a curious choice. I guess then again, this mod didn't want Rex to take full advantage of the enemies. I think the sub-boss being weak to lightning, to make him actually a little bit harder in that regard, and to make him have better defense. I don't know, it's just a guess of mine, I suppose. Alright, now the next bit of the game teaches you how to play. Basically, one of the biggest changes in the game in general is there's no longer like a random encounter thing where you get into a wild battle, the screen go brr, brr, or something like that, you know. And all of a sudden you have your party on one side and the monsters on the other. It's basically a free range combat here where you decide your attacks, and then I'm going to be casting Blizzard right here. You would be deciding your attacks, and you just keep going to the enemies defeated. And what you just noticed too, what you're noticing right now actually, is the speed multiplier. Basically by hitting the, in my controller's case, the LB button, or if you're playing the PS4 version, you hit the L1 button. You can speed up, you can change this later in the options, you can speed up the character movement, which also speeds up the gameplay and makes grinding a hell of a lot less tedious instead of having to wait for like ages just to kill the enemy. That was one thing that have always bugged me about the PS2 version. I'm glad that PS4 added that feature. I will be showing off the multiplayer off and on if something I think is taking too long, but for the sake of this part, I'll show off how the game would be played normally. But definitely in future parts, I will be abusing the speed multipliers. I can actually get to where I need to go and to help quicken the pace here. I mean, the boss himself right now isn't too hard. It's just he just takes less damage. That's what's going on right now. So yeah, pretty much other than that, you just wail on it until it dies, and then you'll be able to move on. But I will say though, while we're seeing this battle do its thing, I do commend the game's soundtrack. I think the game has a very, very good soundtrack. This one in particular is one of my favorites. Yeah, most Final Fantasy themes, not all of them, always sound great when they're orchestrated. I mean, I can talk about Distant Worlds. That's the orchestra band that does all the Final Fantasy themes. They did a number of songs orchestrated. You know, songs from Final Fantasy VIII, from Final Fantasy IV. They would do the Chocobo theme, Sephiroth's theme, you name it. They pretty much done whatever Final Fantasy theme you can think of they would do. And I'm glad that this game's soundtrack in particular got reorchestrated here because it sounds really good. All right, so this guy should be dying any second now. Yes, if I remember correctly, you don't get his health bar all the way down. You just get down to a certain point, and then Bosch will show off one of his quickenings to basically end the battle. As usual, we're just gonna hang out. Me, Danielle, Marlon, and Calvin, we're all just gonna hang out. Not sure yet. And there he goes. And the rest of the soldiers up until another point, you can just go ahead and skip. There's no need to fight them at this point, so you can just move right along. Alright, and here the game just tells you about how you can just simply just run away. You would have to hold on to the R2 button, or in my case here, the RT button, to simply run away. You can do that if you don't feel like fighting enemies, or if you're in a real pickle, then running away would be the best course of action because you don't want to get a game over. I mean, considering the autosave feature the game has, you can always restart right where you entered the map, so there's almost no consequence for getting the game over. Not sure why I stopped there for a moment. I just wanted to. I think I was contemplating whether or not I should end the part there, but I'll let it keep going for just a little while longer.
Intruders! Don't let them escape!
Sir, we have little time. You must go to the king. I'll handle these.
Fight well.
I do recall that. Yeah, I tried to see if I can just go ahead and skip the sequence thing where I can just skip the soldiers, but apparently in the games, apparently I couldn't. I'm not sure why I couldn't. I'm not sure it's because the enemies caught up to me fast enough, or the game requires me to beat the soldiers first. But in any event, you can see the soldiers are actually a little bit tougher this time around, and Rex's health is actually going down quite a bit. Thankfully, you do have the cure spell, though, so I think that's actually quite important. Yeah, this bit I'll have to unfortunately show off, but yeah, it is a required fight. So yeah, not much is really happening right here, right now. You know, you just attack, then heal. When you're low on HP, you rinse, lather, and repeat until you're ready to move on. Alright, I think he's almost dead. Oh no, he's not even close to being dead. Okay. Okay, now he's getting closer. Alright, got a 2-hit strike in there that time, which is very nice. And now we move on to reach the king, and we will see what happens next. Dun dun dun!
Captain, why? Our king, what have you done?
The king intended all along to sell Dalmasca to the Empire. His Majesty was a traitor.
Captain,
Seize the insurgent. Hello. Well, so much for peaceful negotiations.
We'll never surrender to you. We are not cattle to be sold by a traitor king.
But the war is over, my dear Captain. You have lost. Dalmasca is the property of the Empire now. And think, we intended to let you keep some of your sovereignty out of respect. But now you've gone and ruined that. Haven't you, Captain?
We will never bow to you.
And the people of Dalmasca will hate you for it.
Take the captain away. Off you go.
And thus, this right here kicks off the plot of Final Fantasy 12. A pretty damn long plot. Excuse me again.
Pretenses of peace left by the wayside, the Arcadian forces resumed their advance toward Rabanasta. Dalmasca's doom had been decided. To make resistance would serve no end. With this foremost in my thoughts, I, to the people of Dalmasca. Sons and daughters of Dalmasca, I bid you lay down your arms. Raise songs of prayer in their stead. Prayer for His Majesty King Raminas, ever merciful, a man devoted wholly to peace. Prayer too for the noble Princess Ash, who, wrought with grief at her kingdom's defeat, has taken her own life. Know also that Captain Bosch von Ronsenberg, for incitement of sedition and the assassination of His Royal Majesty King Raminas, has been found guilty of high treason and put to his death. They who at this late hour choose still the sword are cut of the same cloth as the captain. Traitors who would lead Dalmasca to her ruin. Dalmasca's surrender without terms was soon to follow.
And yeah, so pretty much here, this is, I believe, just 2 years later. Yeah, 2 years later. And this is where you permanently start control Vaan. Here is just a little here's like another, I guess, one last tutorial fight before you're ready to set out and go play the game. He also introduced a new gimmick to Vaan here. Unlike Rex, Vaan actually has the ability to steal, which actually is essential in this game because looting is actually quite important. So sometimes you'll be able to steal items, sometimes you can't. There are some items that you can steal that are actually quite rare, and actually worth going on your way to grab if you're that patient enough. And here I'm just killing a bunch of rats here. Nothing too drastic here going on right now. But you can get rat pelts from them, as you saw. You can also get an occasional firestone. No, not that firestone. When you evolve your Growler to an Arcanine. But a firestone you can sell as loot. There are also a set amount of loot you can sell in order to gain new items from the bazaar shop. Some of which are actually, most of which are actually worth going on your way to get.
Wow, Vaan, you got him all yourself? Guess I know who to call when something big comes along.
Hey, it's good practice for the desert. I'm ready for anything now. That's enough for today. You should get back to Miguel's place, Kites. Aren't you running errands for him?
Oops. Totally forgot.
Yeah, he totally forgot. Yeah, Kites forgets about his chores for Miguel while Vaan completely ignore his.
Work to do. Hey, lock this place up for me, will you? If Miguel finds out we've been down here, he'll tan our hides.
And yeah, trust me, you don't want to bang a tan your hide. Now, forgive me for this part being incredibly long. I was just testing out my I was just testing out the OBS software here, see how well it would pick up the game, and I will try to keep it shorter for future parts though, so that way it won't be a lot of dead air on my part, and I won't be left with a lot to say. But in general, I did want to get at least one big part out of the way. I might include like another big part later on if I'm about to do something pretty epic, or take on a really hard boss fight. But I will try to keep the parts from going forward. I'll try to keep the parts shorter than they are here.
Oops, sorry.
Which way you're going, Shirl? What? My patch! It's gone! The boy! Get out the way! Oh!
Yeah, I can imagine that in certain Homer Simpson clip going, "Dow!"
What? Hey, that's mine.
What do you mean, yours? You've been stealing again. What happens if they catch you? We need you to be there for us, Vaan. You're no good to anyone if you're locked away in a dungeon.
Oh, what? Am I the leader now?
Yeah, so this is just basically
You gotta watch out for yourself. Come on, Penelope.
so basically here Vaan talks about wanting to steal back from the Empire, which stole from them to begin with. I mean, it's a noble thought and all, but he's really trying hard to be the Robin Hood complex of the whole orphanage thing.
Yeah, but I never said anything about taking it back from me.
Yeah, I think this evolves a lot deeper than just want to be like their typical Robin Hood again.
It doesn't mean that you get to eat.
Like, the story does evolve much bigger than just want to get back at the Empire.
I know that. You think I like living like this?
Because all it takes is just that one airship for him to be inspired to become a sky pirate.
One of these days, I'll fly an airship of my own. I'll be a sky pirate.
Yeah, you might want to ask Sid for some tips on how to ride an airship.
Well, be careful. You'll never fly anything if you're rotting in a dungeon. Oh, Miguel had some errands that need doing. He wanted you to drop by his place. It might be a good idea to lend a hand.
I was never exactly impressed with a lot of the characters' facial models, particularly Penelo's. I don't know, she just didn't exactly look that great in my opinion. If anything, I think Fran had a much better character model in terms of the facial features and whatnot.
Vaan, I was waiting.
Penelope said you needed something?
Had me some packages supposed to be arriving by courier in the morning. Perhaps he made into some trouble on the desert. Now I've no foodstuffs to prepare for the banquet tonight.
So you want me to find this courier? Hey, no problem.
No problem. The desert teem's with trouble. I'd be sending you to early grave, my boy. No, I've arranged for some replacement goods from Tomage over at the Sand Sea.
So you want me to go to the tavern to pick him up?
Actually, I asked Kites to do that. Wouldn't you know he's gone missing on me, too? I can't leave my shop, and
sounds wild.
Yeah, you can tell he's not enthused.
Easy work, and you'll thank me for it someday.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah, you can easily tell that the rest of us are not enthused with just playing as messenger boy here. Although, just a heads up for future part, I will be using the speed up feature to get just to get by places much more quickly, because I already know the dungeons pretty well. Like, maybe not all necessarily, but the back of my hand, but I can get around a lot of the dungeons well enough that I don't need to slow things down or anything like that.
There you are, Kites. Stop loafing around.
Look, Vaan, look! This is it! This is why Miguelo's courier didn't get here on time.
Creature spotted in the Ester sand. What is that thing?
Ah, Vaan. Miguelo sent you too, did he? He's a busy man these days, that Miguelo, if I dare say so myself. I don't envy him the work, though. Not a bit. Quite the affair throwing a banquet to welcome the Imperials, eh?
Welcoming. We should be... whatever. Say Tomaj, what's this?
Nah, don't remind me. Got some nastiness out there in the Ester sand. What's stopping our couriers? And that means shortages all around. Thought I'd put up a bill, offer a reward to anyone who can knock that nasty back in its place.
Now that's work. Sounds 10 times better than running errands for Miguelo.
That's right! Vaan, you should give it a shot!
And you should be getting back to Miguelo. Now, Kites. He was waiting for you.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I know, kid. You don't want to be answering to Miguelo either, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, so basically another tutorial begins, but it's a shorter one this time. It just teaches you that you should always check the bill every so often to accept new hunts, speak to the petitioner, and then complete the hunt, and then claim your reward. It starts off pretty easy, but it can get gradually much more complicated as things go along. Like, you have to fulfill certain stipulations in order to get some hunts to appear. I'll go over them as we go along. Some of them are very straightforward, though. Oh yeah, I think that was another thing why I didn't like the PS2 version. The very beginning, where they set you through like a tutorial that was like at least 5 minutes long, or whatever it was, and all I was doing just mashing the buttons. Here, I think I'm glad they shortened it this time around. Alright, here I think I show off what the license board would look like here. Basically, the stipulation to Zodiac Age is that once you pick a job, you can't switch back. So you always gotta be careful which one you pick. Now, some of the classes now are newly introduced that combines classes from vanilla into something else. For example, Vaan can be a sky pirate. Penelo, I think, is a dancer in this one. And I'm just showing off. This is a struggle board here, but basically you're kind of going a very linear path. Well, it becomes a little bit non-linear later. But then you see everything but then you see all the other rewards that you could get. Not reward, but like other stuff you can get. This is a freedom board where basically you don't have to go through espers and quickenings just to get what you need. And as far as what class I'll be picking for Vaan, that will be determined. Well, I know I'm gonna make him a sky pirate. I just haven't fully figured out yet if I'm gonna do a struggle run or a freedom run. I was told because this is your first time playing the mod, you might want to pick struggle, which I might actually do next part. I still have to further think about it. But don't worry, this is probably the only time I'm probably gonna be showing off the what the license board looks like and what it does. The only time you'll see me using the license board is if I'm leveling up my characters. That's pretty much it. Alright, so our next stop is we're going to be going to the Ester Sand here, which we'll be covering next part, as well as we'll be coming up after the Ester Sand. I believe the Giza Plains will be next after this.
Let's see some papers, boy. No public passage on account of the Lord Consul.
Oh, gee, that's too bad. You see, it just so happens that your provisioner for the fete tonight, he sent me to pick up a few choice morsels for the, consul's dining pleasure. He wants them quick. I got the writ of transit right here. You see? Signed, Magello. I just hate to see the consul upset because his food wasn't ready on time. And I sure hate to see him take it out on you.
The Lord Consul is a great man, and not one to take offense in such trifling matters.
Yeah, you might as well let us through, Buster.
Wouldn't do to keep the consul waiting. Right, gates are closed after this.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so that's it for part 1. Once again, I do apologize if this part was a little bit too long. I will try to cut them short, as short as I possibly can, going forward. But next time we meet, we're going to be going to the Ester Sand. See ya then!